empowering, and it means a lot to me and my family that you guys will stand beside us and continue to get Mubarak's word out. We are all here because we want justice, and no justice, no peace, right?
So I just want to make it clear that the long-term goal for many in the movement is the abolition of police, is the abolition of prisons. But when we say defund the police today, we do not mean that tomorrow you're going to wake up and not find a single police officer around.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The new Netanyahu government is preparing to annex parts of the West Bank. Jews there will continue to be citizens. Palestinians there won't get the right to vote. Just their land will be different. It'll be officially part of Israel. There was a joint Jewish-Arab rally against the plan to annex the West Bank settlements in Tel Aviv's Rabin Square, with thousands participating. By some estimates, some 6,000 people took part. The number was not as important as the fact that the slogans are getting better. They're using the word apartheid now, not just talking about occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. Also note the sign about Iyad Halak, the 32-year-old special needs Palestinian murdered by border guards who we talked about last week. Now for news of the Black Lives Matter protests. New Haven saw its biggest protest in decades, with 1,000 or maybe 5,000 people marching from the center of town to the New Haven police station. The next day in New Haven, there was a protest to remember the killing back in January of Mubarak Soulemane by a state trooper in nearby West Haven. I tried one interview before the crowd arrived. It was very difficult to conduct it with both parties masked. So explain what the situation is now and why there's need for a protest.
I'm here today because I want justice for my boy Mubarak Soulemane. He was shot 7 times unlawfully by police officer Brian North in West Haven. He had a schizophrenic episode, but that did not matter. The only thing mattered that day was the color of his skin.
No justice! No peace! No racist! Police! 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 No justice!
On behalf of my brother Mubarak, solidarity is so empowering, and it means a lot to me and my family that you guys will stand beside us and continue to get Mubarak's word out. We are all here because we want justice, and no justice, no peace, right? And we can't just let our brothers and sisters end up just being hashtags with no justice and with no accountability coming from departments. So we ask for accountability on behalf of my brother. We ask for accountability on behalf of every Black brother and Black sister that was taken away from us by police, that was murdered by police. So this is why we all come together. Again, thank you so much, and I can't wait to get this show on the road.
met sophomore year of high school. I'm now a sophomore in college, and you know, the first time I met Mubi was at a basketball practice, and ever since then, I knew he was a good person. He always had a smile on his face. He always knew how to make somebody laugh. You know, if he was ever going somewhere, I'm the first person he'd always ask if I ever wanted to come. You know, he included me in anything he did, and he cared about everyone as long as you cared about him. You know, he wasn't mean to anybody. He was just a nice kid, and what happened to him was something he did not deserve. And today, and for the rest of my life, until I get justice for Mubi, I will be fighting for his justice.
My name's Sanford Rubenstein. I'm one of the attorneys representing the Mubarak family against the government for damages for his wrongful death. The truth of the matter is, we've seen all over the country, all over the world now, the response to the public to the police brutality that has been going on for so many years. And what we want, in the memory of all those who have died at the hands of police wrongly, is for this brutality and the killings to stop. So we say, stop the killing!
Protest. Mubi was one of my best friends, and now he only exists on my arm and in pictures. And that's not right. A lot of people only exist in tattoos and in pictures and videos because the police feel like black people are criminals to them because of systematic racism that has been here since the United States was founded. And that needs to change, starting with the president and the police departments. So I'm here today to tell the chief of Norwalk Police, the chief of West Haven Police, the chief of New Haven Police, and all three mayors that they are all complicit in the crimes against the black community, and they need to take accountability. They cannot just throw things away. We are trying to fight for Mubi right now, sending out emails to the departments. West Haven told one of our people that they don't even have a chief because they're trying to deflect it that hard. They told us that they don't even know who Mubi was, but it happened just a couple blocks down from their department. If I heard gunshots in my state or my town, I would want to know about it. So they're blatantly lying to us, just like the New Haven Police Department did. They denounced police brutality and they held up Black Lives Matter signs on the steps of the police department. Yet, they pepper sprayed us, the next day? How is that right? How is any of that right? Why are they using rubber bullets? Why are they pepper spraying innocent protesters? I'll tell you why. Because the police system has always been racist, and it will be racist to this day.
How y'all doing? Alright. I'm from Black Lives Matter 860. I brought my team up here. We are tired, so we've been in the streets for 12 days. We got people quitting their jobs for this. We got people laying their lives on the line for this. You want to know why? Because we have the world shaking in their goddamn boots right now.
Marchers and 20 cars carrying old and medically compromised people took to the streets. and the hundreds marched into the New Haven Green, joining a more general protest about Black Lives Matter.
No peace! No peace!
Police! No peace! Police! No peace! No peace!
No racist!
Police!
No justice!
No peace!
No racist!
Police!
No justice!
No peace!
No racist!
Police!
Just look around. Look at this unity. You don't want to see that?
Lives matter. You will defend this country. That means if it's a cop acting as a Nazi, or in other words, a Nazi with the authority of the state, because the president just did his Osama bin Laden allowed me. When the rioters, when the movement started, the shooting started, but he was actually saying it was an idiot. We should be shooting now, but they just looting you for $6 trillion. That's excluding the trillion for every day that they keep off. They never gonna make you as happy as being brotherhood and being part of the United States of America in a sense. Vote the president out! If we had an opposition party, instead of folks acting like an opposition party by applying, by not saying they ain't gonna do the job, we could do some form. Now see, the Constitution has many remedies for this guy. We are the ones obeying the law. You're right. Now, what we gotta do, see if they can defend yourself. And God bless America.
They held an 8-minute, 46-second moment of silence.
Let's all take a knee for 9 minutes. Because that's the amount of time that officer was on George Floyd's neck.
And at one point raised their fists in the militant salute. This was a car in New Haven for the Soulemane protest. In West Haven itself, the Register reported 1,000 people were its green and marching to its police station. No public official there has criticized the state or city police for the Soulemane killing. One of the key demands now of protesters is defund the police. Linda Sarsour, the Palestinian-American activist from New York, on Democracy Now! Explained what defund the police means.
So, Linda Sarsour, this call to defund the police that is echoing throughout the country, explain exactly what it means. And would you say that it goes along the lines of what the Minneapolis City Council says they're going to do within the next year, and that is dismantle the police department? Is it to completely cut off the $6 billion to the New York Police Department, or reallocate a lot of money?
I just want to make it clear that the movement to end police brutality, the movement for the sanctity of Black life, is being led by Black women and Black people, and they have been calling for the abolition of police, many for decades, and some longer than that. So I just want to make it clear that the long-term goal for many in the movement is the abolition of police, is the abolition of prisons. But when we say defund the police today, we do not mean that tomorrow you're going to wake up and not find a single police officer around. That is not what defunding the police means right now at this moment. What it really means, Amy, and it's very rational and it's very reasonable, is that we need to take cops out of our schools, cops out of addressing mental health crises, cops out of addressing homelessness, and reallocate those resources to services, to adequate housing, to case management, to economic opportunities in our community, to reinstate programs like the Summer Youth Employment Program, to make sure that we have, for example, protective equipment for healthcare workers, making sure that we have clinics and hospitals and access to healthcare for Black and brown people, for undocumented people in our communities, better buses and better infrastructure and better transportation. So what we're saying is, let the cops do what the cops are supposed to do. Keep people safe. They are not social workers. They are not mental health professionals. They are not educators. So they are actually engaging in activity that does not match the qualifications nor the criteria of a police officer. That is not what they are trained to do in the police academy. So why are we sending them to address things that have nothing to do with them? So what we're saying is, in New York City, the police department has, one of the largest budgets of any agency. In fact, maybe the largest of all agencies in New York City. All we're saying is decrease their budget, take that money and reappropriate it into youth, seniors, community development, and with a focus on those who have been the most directly impacted, focused on communities of color, poor working class people. And when you have this conversation, Amy, with people who do not understand what defund the police is, I have not had one conversation with a white ally or a neighbor in a place like Bay Ridge, which has a lot of pro-law enforcement people. People say to me, you make sense. This is absolutely rational. It is absolutely reasonable. So we're not saying, delete the police officers off the face of the earth tomorrow. But what we're saying is reappropriate the funding and let's put it back in the services that our community needs, so we could be healthy, we could be safe, and we could be secure, and we can have communities that thrive and not only survive in New York City.
We have to show this photo of a sea of humanity in Austin, Texas. People risking their lives during the pandemic to protest police brutality. Protesters have destroyed or removed statues glorifying the Confederacy or white supremacy. Robert E. Lee's statue, here is messaged with graffiti, and on it a projected picture of George Floyd. And this is going worldwide. In Bristol, England, protesters toppled a statue to a man who ran a company that transported 84,000 people, kidnapped people who they were going to use as slaves. 19,000 died on the trip. Protesters then dragged the statue to the river and dumped it in. By the way, the first slaves in Bristol were the Irish back in the 11th century. Columbus statues are not faring well. We all learned in elementary school about the brave sailor Columbus. Only a few of us in college learned how cruel the man was and how his voyages resulted in the deaths of 90% of the Taino native population in Hispaniola. Probably several hundred thousand deaths. There should be no question about getting rid of Columbus Day and replacing it with Day of the Race. On June 26th, the postponed car caravan to protest the building of a dangerous methane-burning plant in Killingly will take place. 3 o'clock in Hartford around the Deep building. Organizers will be having a Zoom meeting with speakers at the same time for those who can't attend. For details, go to Facebook and search for Stop the Fracked Gas Power Plant! ! Just a note here, yesterday I was listening to a webinar by Drs. Richard Wolff and Harriet Fraud about the two depressions afflicting us. One, the recent economic depression, the other, the depression in spirit that has led to so many suicides and opioid addictions. Numbers so high that U.S. life expectancy has actually declined. Dr. Fraud said that U.S. life expectancy was just below that of Cuba. That didn't seem real, so I checked the figures for myself. Well, here are the top nations in life expectancy: Hong Kong, Switzerland, Italy, and lo and behold, in position 45 is Cuba, and 46 is the USA. You lose 5 years of your life living in the U.S. Hey, but we're ahead of Panama and Albania. Our chests swell with pride. Our TSVN staff put on their masks and visited Elizabeth Park in West Hartford to see the Rose Garden. And here are some of their pictures. finally, we can't resist this example of business enterprise. A Chinese company is making boycott China hats and selling them in India. That's our program for today. Be safe, folks, but be active. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.